Imagine if a loved one got caught up in drugs and needed help. Would you want them to be treated, or would you want them to go to jail only to resume addiction after jail? Many drug addicts are depressed. They need help and encouragement to where they don't need drugs to make them happy. Drug addicts should seek treatment, not jail, because without treatment, the drug addicts will never learn why not to do the drug. Jail will depress the addict even more and make them crave the drug even more. If the addicts do not seek counseling and ways to seek happiness, they will always run back to the drugs to make them feel good. If drug addicts are sent to prison and not treated, then the issue will never be resolved because they will never learn how to be happy without the drug. Drug addicts should seek treatment because jail won't fix the addict's problems. Some people might argue that drugs are illegal. Drugs are illegal, but if the problem is not solved, then the drugs will end up being right back in the drug user system. Drug addicts should seek treatment because the addicts will never learn ways to cope with their addiction in jail. The only thing jail time will do to an addict is depress them more and make the addict crave the drug more. When judging an addict, always keep in the back of your mind, what if it was someone close to me?
Schools have the right to search student lockers and book bags whenever they have suspicion towards a student. If a student walks in smelling like drugs or acting goofy, they should be searched. If we get people that use drugs or have them, we need to get them out of our schools as soon as we can. 9 times out of 10, if a teacher has suspicion about a student and they drug test them or search them, they will find something. Students who use drugs are oftentimes the reason for fights at schools. If you use drugs, you should not be going to school and taking drugs to school with you, or even take weapons. Students need to be searched for drugs in order to keep classmates safe. Schools need to be safe, so if a student brings a gun, we need to search them before anybody gets hurt. There's actually a lot of school shootings. How many kids die in it was just because people were bad. There has been 37 school shootings in the United States in the last year. That's something to think about.
Don't schools do enough damage making their students think alike, but now they make them look alike too? This quote by George Carlin is about public schools forcing their students to wear school uniforms. There are a few things wrong with this. The First Amendment states that students, people, and everybody in America has the right to self-expression. But if you make a student wear a uniform, you are taking away his or her right for self-expression. The second reason that these public school uniforms aren't needed is because they are an unnecessary expense. The average cost of a uniform is $249. So if you were a parent who couldn't afford that, you'd have to send your kid to school somewhere else because you can't afford to buy them a uniform. That is ridiculous. Now, some people say that public school uniforms are good. They prevent formations of cliques and gangs. Well, they don't. Public school uniforms may prevent the showing of like a gang's or clique's emblem during school, but outside of school, kids are allowed to do whatever they want without the school being able to do anything to them. So overall, school uniforms should not be in public schools because they go against your First Amendment to self-expression. They are an unnecessary expense to families, especially to the ones that can't afford it, and they don't prevent the formation of cliques or gangs.
Hello, I'm Cody Shoemaker, and this would be my persuasive essay on violence in video games. before I start, I would like to point out I'm not trying to prove that video games are non-violent, because there are some. I am in fact trying to prove that they are not overly violent. To begin with, I would like to point out that most of the things I've seen during my research are basically people just saying that kids are getting corrupted by violence video games. Like the entire Call of Duty franchise is usually the one that all of these reports are being directed at. For all those people, I'd like to say that, well, those types of games were not created with children in mind, they were created for adults in mind, and yet people are still saying that they should be banned because our children are getting, quote-unquote, corrupted by games that they're not supposed to be playing in the first place. Also, in all of my research during this, I found only 2 cases of of video game-related death, and in both cases, it was almost the exact same setup with it, actually. Some parents would get addicted to a game they really liked, and they would leave their home for some time, or just neglect their child for some time, and the child would unfortunately starve to death. That isn't the game's fault, though. As unfortunate that this happened, that isn't the game's fault. That's the parents being irresponsible. Secondly, people will claim that by playing overly violent video games, that it would make the person more aggressive, like the personality in general. This is not true. There have been research studies done for aggression levels in video games and of all those studies, most of them end up showing that people do get more aggressive while playing video games. However, they'll only be aggressive for while they're actually playing the game, and then that aggression will kind of just go away when they're done. Sometimes it'll even go away before they're even done playing the game. It's 10 minutes, I think. And then lastly, people can actually use video games to vent their anger in a peaceful manner. Sure, they could have gone punched a wall or just punched a person, but instead they just chose to play a game to vent their anger. I have done this in the past. I can say it does work very well, and it's certainly a lot less painful than punching a wall. And lastly, something for everyone out there to think about. In all of my research doing this, I've kind of noticed that most of the critics of this topic are kind of going against one company specifically. Mainly, the producers of the Halo series and the Call of Duty series. And no matter what they do, they keep calling these games super realistic, which, if any of you people have seen half of them, you will know this is not true at all. But they keep saying they are, which would lead me to believe that these critics are actually doing nothing more than going against the company itself in a way to cut their funding by alienating their fan base, instead of actually making a logical argument. That is all. Thank you.
Old enough to fight, old enough to drink. In some countries that is the case, but not in America. In America, the legal drinking age is 21. It should be lowered. It should be lowered because a larger percentage of people under the age of 21 are more likely to be binge or heavy drinkers since the age was raised. The second reason it should be lowered is it is seen as a forbidden fruit among people under the age of 21. Since the age was increased, the number of alcohol-related problems has increased as well. Lowering the drinking age and providing alcohol education would be beneficial to the nation. How much do you think the United States would benefit from the drinking age being lowered?
Should be paid for having good grades. The money they earn can help pay for college books and tuition. The Louisiana program offers $1,000 if you attend one semester of college and maintain a C average. The students who got the money went to a year-round college with the reward. The reward of Cash for Grades is keeping students motivated. Cash for Grades can motivate you to work hard in school. Paying your child can improve grades and scores. More students are doing better in school. Mary Nolan disagrees. She said that she set priorities for her children to be successful themselves. Studies show that test scores are improving. Rewarding your student doesn't give them more skills, it just improves grades and scores.